one queen. How was your day, Tess? You're the only one at school at the moment.
It was pretty good, yeah. We were making stuff for graduation. We made those big paper tissue pom-pom things.
I've spent a lot of time at the shrine of Dave Hughes, just bowing down. I love crab sticks. You think about it. You get the goodness of a crab with the convenience of a stick. Concerned about wanting to be known or wanting to be adored by everyone or as many people as possible. How would you feel if I couldn't go to your graduation because I was working?
Probably disappointed but not surprised.
There's a difference, I think, in being a hard worker and being a workaholic. I feel he's a workaholic.
God, kids are hard work. I had no idea. They never leave. That's why I work so much.
Hughes's enduring mistress is his job. I think that was really hard for Holly at the start.
How was your day, Dave?
2
What did you do today?
Thank you for asking.
Yeah,
I thought someone
I'm
might
interested.
ask eventually.
I'm interested.
Like when he goes away, he never tells her until like the last minute because he's scared of what she's going to say, which is just idiotic.
Yeah, sometimes he asks us if we can tell her.
Yeah.
But the fact that Mom's like the head of that house, I think that's what happens when you're away a lot.
Yeah.
Should I win Father of the Year or not?
No.
Should your mother win Mother of the Year?
There's nothing that he can achieve that will stop him feeling like he needs to keep working. I'm impressed by his drive, but there's no point where it's ever enough.
I begged one of the surf lifestyles. I said, just take me somewhere. I can see your buggy over there. He said, I'm not meant to go on the road. I said, just do it, mate. I'll pay you surge prices. Just go for it. I'm definitely addicted to comedy and always looking for the next audience. And that has had its trials and tribulations over the years. Oh, the flame trees will blind the weary driver, and there's nothing else to set fire to this town. There's no change, there's no place. Oh, fuck, there's no change, there's no pace. It's very evocative for me, it really is. I love coming back to Warrnambool. It's a beautiful town, and my father would always say it's the best place in the world. He'd never been anywhere else, really. I come from a line of addictive personalities, and, you know, I think it's fair to say Dad was addicted to alcohol, and I stopped with alcohol a long time ago, and maybe I've gotten a work addiction, which has been claimed, so... But I think it's a healthy addiction to be, you know, obsessed with making people laugh. This is a Deakin University. Remember, on a university orientation camp, I got way too drunk and shat myself. That was terrible. I never really lived that down, and I was not ready to laugh at it back then. And no one was allowed to bring it up. It was a terrible time of my life. The old house there where I grew up with the yellow brick fence. There's a commission house area around here.
Dave, the youngest of 4 of us, he was incredibly shy and not a big chatter. I think he internalised a lot of things.
That internal monologue was basically narcissistic, morbid self-love, which I've had since I was probably 4. Morbid self-love, like wanting to be the best and then being miserable because I'm not seen as being the best.
No, Dave was not a funny kid. He was serious. He was a crier. He liked to cry, particularly when Carlton lost. He cried a lot.
You know, if I didn't make the first football team, I'd be in the bathroom crying, wondering why God doesn't love me. So I was very much wanted to be a hero from a very young age. This is my field of dreams, the Davidson Oval, where I played AFL for the old Collegians Football Club. These were my glory days.
Dave's a good sportsman, good footy player. He was very courageous, like he used to back into packs and take marks that other people wouldn't do. But he's determined to take that mark and not be outplayed.
Remember, there used to be cars up on the hill honking their horns if you got the ball through. People cheering over on the stands over there. My old house was just here. Dad would be on the porch looking over the fence, or pottering around in the backyard, so a lot of good times. I still cherish my childhood and cherish my upbringing, and I realise, in a way, how good I had it, even though it was very stressful, you know, with Dad.
Do you remember the shift work, Dave?
Yeah.
When Mum was working late at Croydon Hospital and one of us had to wake him up. Oh, my God.
That was nervous times. He didn't want to wake up to do the midnight shift, did he?
Never.
No, but the worst was when he wouldn't go on the 4 o'clock shift.
Oh, yeah, that was
He'd come home from
terrible.
school and the car would still be there.
I know.
You know, here we go.
Yeah, that's right.
It's going to be a tough night.
It's true. Yeah.
My father worked at the local factory. If he was at home and he'd been drinking in the afternoon, obviously in his head he'd be going, I should be at work, you know, I'm not, and he'd be feeling guilty, I imagine, and he would take it out on the family, yeah, which is not fun. He was never physically violent, no, but emotionally it was hard.
Look, it was. But we got through it. Made us tougher, do you reckon?
We got through it, well, yes.
But I often really reflect how Mum coped with it all, but she did. David always said when Mum was alive he wouldn't talk about Dad's drinking. I had a respect for Mum. But we knew when Mum had passed that he would talk freely about it.
Yeah, there'd be definitely times of feeling stressed and scared. Yeah, a lot of times. Knowing there's a loaded gun in the house and someone who is not mentally stable and drunk in the house is not a relaxing way to go through your childhood. It's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation, which I think is pretty common, where they wake up the next morning and just get on with their day like they hadn't terrorised everyone the night before. Your mum was very patient, obviously, and endured quite a bit of BS over the years, but, you know, she loved him and he had many lovable characteristics, yeah. She never complained, my mother. She wasn't a complainer, so she would just get on with it. Very stoic, very, matter of fact. She was a very strong matriarch of our family.
I think she's been a really good influence for him. She was an incredibly smart person with a very dry sense of humour. You know, he looked up to her a lot. They were like kindred spirits in a sense, similar personalities.
I was always loved comedy, always. I loved to laugh. I reckon I was lying in bed maybe at the age of 14 where I thought I want to do comedy. So I didn't really tell anyone, but it was there from a really young age.
We were always trying to crack each other up, so class was always pretty funny. We used to torment Brother O'Brien. That became a bit of a sport in Year 11. But I remember we were allowed to do a speech of an inspiring person in religious history. And Dave got up and just treated it like a game. And the whole room was in tears. And Brother O'Brien was going, sit down, son. Sit down, son. He's getting really cut. That just egged Dave on.
That moment in front of that class where they all laughed so hard at my improvised comedy, that really stayed with me, like I can be funny. We're here at the Max Hotel. These are all my old friends, or some of my old friends who used to play footy with. Simon and Stephen, they both did Year 12 with us. Rat's a few years older.
6 years older.
So although his skin looks great, doesn't it? I don't know how these guys look so young, to be honest. I had Lee on a TV show I did years ago and people were saying that he looked younger than me. I said, he's my fucking school teacher, all right? He's my school teacher. All right, so, anyway, what was I saying? Yes, Lee, who got the highest marks in Year 12 at that school? Lee?
When you hear about ducks of a school, you assume, like, there's a cohort of 250 students. We had, I think, 25, and Dave Hughes ended up in front. So he's the official ducks of Service C in 1988.
I got a scholarship to do information technology at Swinburne in Melbourne, and I was so bored. I lasted 6 weeks, so I couldn't handle it. I came back and I worked in an abattoir for a year actually, so that was confronting. So I'd started an accounting degree. It was good because I moved out of home and lived with some friends. I was one of the leaders of the party pack. I was certainly someone who encouraged people to get off their nuts.
Dave's personality was that intense that he couldn't stop. Like once he started, he couldn't go out and have 2 beers. He'd want to have like 15.
And I did not study in the second year, so I failed every subject. So I quit uni, and then I basically was just on the dole, really. So that was a pretty depressing year. I was not in a good headspace. I was spending most days just sitting in the bath. I think alcohol was a big part of it, and marijuana was a big part of it. I was dependent on other substances for my moods. I was self-obsessed, and I was thinking I'm a failure in life. I hated myself, yeah. And actually, my mother helped me out. I said to her that I thought I was schizophrenic. I was really having bad moments. And she took me to a doctor. This doctor said, I don't think you're schizophrenic, but it looks like your lifestyle's not helping you.
Hey, Mick.
No. Hey, Mick, how's it going?
Good, Dave. How are you?
Yeah, good.
That's what we want.
We're here for, mate, we're going to go through some photos.
Yeah.
This is me at my 21st. Dad, Mum, back in my drinking days, my last hurrah, basically.
Did you give up then, did you? I thought you'd been older.
No, I was still 21. I'd had a bender after we actually won a grand final, and that went for probably 8 weeks. And I think I read somewhere that every time you black out, you lose part of your brain. And I thought, well, that's every time I drink. So I mustn't have much brain left. I love this photo.
Oh, yeah.
So my ego kicked in to say that you have a good brain and you should protect the rest of your brain that's left. That was a big day.
Was it Sunday afternoon or Saturday afternoon?
Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. In his mind, that's how he was going to continue. He was worried he was going to be like Dad. And at that young age, he decided to give it up. We thought, oh, he'll get back and have a few. Never. That was his resolve, though, and that's him.
There you go, and the lads. Sean?
Yeah.
I thought he was brave because he's, well, I'm going to stop drinking because I've decided it's not good for me. And then, well, who am I then without the drink?
I felt powerful. I felt like I'd taken the power back. I think I just got more focused on what I wanted to do. I moved to Perth with a friend and I started comedy. I followed my dream, you know, and I don't think I ever would have done it if I had have kept drinking. I don't reckon I would have had the mental clarity or the mental fortitude to do it.
I first saw Hughesy at what was his very first stand-up gig at a comedy club called the Laugh Resort in Perth, and he fell flat on his face.
It was the worst moment of my life. No one laughed. There was no jokes. Was that fair to say?
Yeah. Yeah. It was an external thought process.
Yes. On stage,
Yeah.
my internal monologue was, you're not funny, you failed uni, you can't get a job, you are a complete loser. So that was what I was thinking as I was trying to make people laugh.
To his credit, he got up the very next week to do another 5 minutes, and again another week, and I have never seen anyone find their comedy voice as quick as Hughesy did.
That third gig, I walked on stage and just relaxed. I thought I'm a winner for just being up here, and it caught fire that night. It was talking about things in my life which were embarrassing and turning it into jokes, and that was the night I was hooked. all my brain was going, you're right, you are funny, this is a life for you.
He very quickly worked up to being a headline act, and he wasn't there very long before he moved back to Melbourne.
Yeah, so these are my first headshots, I think. There's not many wrinkles there. The hair is very dark. I don't know what's in here. Shit. God, that's heavy. Jesus. These are joke books from bloody 30 years worth of jokes, all in here. I was a big self-help guy as well. There's so many here, oh my God. I would journal and I would write about my experiences and I would write about my hopes and dreams.
The first time I came to hang out with him at his flat in St Kilda, the one thing I distinctly remember was in his room, his bedroom in this flat, just surrounding every space on the wall was inspirational quotes, just on random scrap bits of paper that was just staring at him 360 from the moment he woke up. And as much as that could be seen as serial killer stuff, I quite admired it.
Mum rang me up once and said, Dave, it's okay if you're gay. I said, Mum, I'm not gay. She said, do I never see you with girls? I said, I do see girls. She said, you never bring them down home? I said, Mum, it's a 3-hour drive down there. These girls want $200 an hour, you know?
I remember you doing material on stage about being with prostitutes.
Yes.
And it felt to me at the time, the scene, like the other comedians...
They were having trouble dealing with it.
They had trouble dealing with it, and you were kind of put on the outer... You were sort of not blacklisted, but you were frowned upon.
But I was really trying to keep honest to myself.
Well, I didn't have a girlfriend for a long time, all right? It was not till I was 25 till I got my first girlfriend, you know? So I was walking around this earth for 25 years without realising all the things that was wrong with me.
He could speak to everyday people, and he was supremely relatable at a time where that's not necessarily what people were doing.
I think the Army are doing a great job. I've never been invaded ever.
1999, I was doing the comedy festival in front of like 40 people, maybe 30, sometimes 20. And then I went on the comedy festival gala on TV, which is the first year I'd been on it. I'd been wanting to be on it for a few years.
Every tram trip for me, I call it my reverse scratchy. I get on, I don't pay $1.20, and I've got a chance to lose 100.
And then that went to air, and the next night it just sort of, the room started filling up. And they moved me to a bigger room. So that was a year where I thought, right, I'm going to make some money here. I knew then that it was a financially viable thing to do. I bought a purple Corolla. That was my first big purchase, brand new.
For me now, I think I'm so hooked that if I don't do a gig for a week, I really feel a bit edgy, if you know what I mean. It's like something that I have to do to feel good in a way, you know what I mean? It's when I feel good, just feel normal. So I'm sort of hooked on it, I reckon.
When I first met him, I was not sure about him at all. He was really weird. He was like very ill at ease, particularly I think around women. He was our Friday correspondent on the Breakfasters Breakfast Show on community radio, but he was just so funny and unlike anybody else, laconic, but sharp at the same time, an unusual combination.
Excuse me, bit of privacy would be appreciated. Man at work here.
You can shut the door if you want, Gemma.
Thank you.
Nova 100. Hughes, Kate and Dave for breakfast.
When we were approached to do Nova Breakfast in Melbourne, I was like, oh, great. The process is collaborative, and we became, you know, really beautiful friends. But even at that point, I didn't know how voracious his appetite was for success. Really, only in retrospect, you recognise the engine that was driving him was never off.
All of a sudden I'm the popular guy, you know, which I wasn't at 19 in the Warrnambool pubs. I wasn't popular, but here I am, the age of 29 maybe, I'm popular.
I had been out to a bar with my friends and they'd said, oh, look, there's Hughesy. He'd just started on Nova, so people knew who he was.
A group of blokes had recognised me at this bar and they were talking to me. This girl just was hovering over their shoulder and she was beautiful. Oh my God, she's stunning.
I thought that this was a guy who got a lot of attention all the time and that, you know, why would he be interested in me? And we just had a nice little chat and nothing happened. And I did actually write about it in my diary. And I said, I met this lovely guy, I met Hughesy and he was so nice. Then on the Monday on the radio, one of my friends texted me and said, flick onto Nova, I'm pretty sure they're talking about you.
So she ended up ringing into the radio station to say it was her. She didn't go on air, but I rang her and I said, do you want to go out? She said yes.
You know, she was just a very interesting, unusual, solid, grounded, so beautiful, but kind of without ego, like Maria in The Sound of Music. Just very lovely woman who loved and approved of him.
I'm almost 10 years older than her. Other people judged me at the time. They'd say, why don't you go with a girl your own age? And I said, they had their chance 10 years ago. They didn't want me on the dole, they're not getting me now.
As a person, Dave is very kind, he's a deep thinker, but then there is probably that shy and slightly insecure child still in there. And so it took a while for me to understand how much of a problem his ego is for him. This, desire to get attention all the time and to always be the best.
I love being on the TV, I do, but I got a couple of kids, so it's not easy, but my 2-year-old son doesn't even watch the show. That's disrespectful.
He loves to be acknowledged and he loves to be recognised, and for a long time he had terrible crow's feet because he didn't want to wear sunglasses in case someone wouldn't recognise him.
I do radio in the mornings, I work TV at night, and I understand that the hard work happens at home, but I'm there on the weekends. My wife doesn't give me bloody any favours though.
There were definitely times in our marriage that has been an issue. You'll be saying, well, actually you should be at home here with us or with the kids, but he can't pass up an opportunity to do something that will help his career.
Look, I like playing any venues, to be honest. I equate it to like surfing. If you can't surf big waves, surf small waves, As long as there's a wave, as long as I can paddle out and there's an audience, I'll take it, so yeah.
We all talk about it, why we all do this, what is it we're missing? It seems to be in our own life that has this yearning for the gratitude of complete strangers.
So I'm on first, yeah? Yes. Yeah.
Also, there's probably a fear of, if I get off the treadmill, what happens?
It's not about money with Hughesy, really, though he enjoys that, and it's a great metric of his success, but for him it's actually properly the work. He can't say no to it, It's the piece of cheese to the rat.
All right, come on. One shot each. Come on. Here we go.
I think that he would regret that he missed out on time with the kids.
Oh!
And now that the kids are older, he has been able to be very involved, which is fantastic.
He's done it. First go.
Finally. He's taught us a lot about voicing the positive side and things. Like, it might seem like it's really bad now, but then in a couple of years, you'll be making a joke about it and it will all be okay.
Yeah, that's it. All net, we got that, did we? Is Hughesy turning into a boring, whinging, right-wing knob? Oh. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I used to like him a lot. Please, no.
Definitely my ego was wanting to share my opinions all the time. So during COVID, I was vocal on social media about decisions that were being made and which I didn't think were right. And a lot lot of the stuff I said I absolutely stand by. But yeah, and there was a pile on. Yeah, it was stressful at times, absolutely. My wife said, why are you on it? And I said, I don't know. She said, people don't need to hear your opinion all the time. I said, it was a revelation to me. So I share my opinion less now. We're doing it. Maureen. Got into cold water therapy. It's something I do regularly now. It wakes me up and it's invigorating, so I recommend it to everyone.
Dave is someone who is always looking for ways to improve himself. He's got that sort of Aussie bogan persona, but he's actually a vegan who meditates. So he's a bit of a contradiction in some ways, but he tries to be honest and to be truthful about who he is.
We lost our mum October 2023. Without her support, life would have been a lot tougher for me. So yeah, she was a real champion and a champion of mine.
Dave's always been very honest about how important his mother was, especially in his upbringing, and her determination to see him not necessarily succeed in terms of comedy, but to be like a functional person who kicked his addictions and made something of himself.
My dad passed about 10 years ago now, maybe a bit longer. We certainly made up from whatever problems we'd had in the past. I didn't hold a grudge against him at all, even though I've gone down a different path in the way I live my life. He was a wise man in many ways who always say that family's the number one, and you know, as I was chasing success over the years, maybe I didn't agree with that, but now as I get older I realise he was right. I had definitely times where I could have spent more time with the family rather than chasing that laugh. I'm much more centred now and much more relaxed, and some of that comes from having failures. You know, where like a radio show doesn't work or a TV show isn't renewed, or having pile-ons online and realising that a lot of people don't like me or whatever, but realising that doesn't matter. Life isn't about that bullshit, it's about the moment and, you know, being kind to people and, yeah, sharing joy with others.
From a man who came from very humble beginnings where he didn't have much, you make hay while the sun shines. And we're in an industry where you do not know how long this will last. But I'd like to think for his sake, he at some point can just pat himself on the back and say, I can start to rest a little bit. But whether he'll get there or not, I don't know.
Comedy Club, we always get the biggest names in the country dropping in because it's such a good club. This next guy is no exception. This guy, just a fact, the greatest stand-up comedian this country has ever produced. Whoa. Ever! He's unbeatable. Get excited. Put your hands together. Let's go! Dave Hughes!
Thank you. And if they edit that intro out of the story, I'm fucking throwing my TV through the window. So.